Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. I'm going to share my window. Thanks for taking the time to meet Betsy today. Can everyone see my window okay? Got it, Mike? Yeah? Okay. Very good. So this is Betsy, and I'm the CTO, by the way. So I was told not to get too technical, but I am going to probably have to tell you some technical things so you understand the way that she works. And something to emphasize from Mike. I don't know if you saw it was on the bottom of every slide. You interviewed Betsy on Friday, and she can start on Monday. And that's a real key about how we deploy her, right? So this isn't an AI solution that you have to have IT resources dedicated to managing it, that you have to have administrators in the organization. Betsy comes in like an employee and she starts taking action like an employee. And that's what we hope that you can see today. Some of the unique things about Betsy is that she has a holistic view of all of your users or your workforce. I know Mike and the HR team call this a census. And you can see this data is gathered across multiple systems. And later on, I'm going to show you what she's able to do, having access to that data that really is emergent and something that's new in the HR organization, both from the insights and from the time you're able to do it. One of the important things as well is that Betsy, when she's in your organization, she becomes an expert in your organization's information. So you'll see here we have our Catalyst Employee Handbook loaded in here. And we have a couple of our health programs loaded in here as well. This is a place, we call it grounding information, where we put documents that make Betsy smarter on your specific organization. You can see the add document button. That doesn't just hold this like a file. When we upload it, it gets vectorized and graphed and becomes part of Betsy's memory. And that's how she's different than a normal chatbot. She takes her general knowledge that's available in the world and then your specific information to give you unified answers, and we'll show that as well. And as part of the demo, like we talked about earlier with integrations, she's integrated with Bamboo HR, which we have set up in a sandbox with some test data here as well to show her taking action around that. And then we use Google Workforce. So we integrated her there for calendar and email. And like Mike had said, she also can be integrated in with Outlook and Teams and Slack. So with that, let's actually talk with Betsy a little bit. So real quickly, I could ask Betsy, what PTO have I used? So Betsy will go into systems, find that information and organize it and feed it back to me so I can understand what my time off looks like for the year. She put it in a graphical format, which is great. These are the days off that I've used already, so I know what I have. And I can actually ask Betsy, please request time off for next Friday. And she'll go ahead into our Bamboo system and put that request in, which will show up for my manager, which is Mike Smart, for him to approve, and I can check on that later on. So this is a little quick introduction to show how she can be involved in time off management. She doesn't require people and employees to log in to multiple systems to get that done. They can just have a natural language discussion with her and get it done. And something real quick to mention that we haven't talked about either. Data privacy is very important, especially in HR, and we know you're thinking that. So we have three personas that we serve with Betsy inside of an organization. The highest level persona is HR admin, where she has access to as much information as an HR manager would have inside the organization about the workforce. Next level would be a manager of people, where that manager has the right information scope for the people that report to them and anything they would normally have. And then we have an employee persona, where they have just information about them and they can't really ask about anybody else, or they can't ask what the person in the cubicle beside them is making, salary wise. And we have this enterprise grade security handled and walled garden on the data so that you don't have to deal with anything like that. So real quick along this line, also, we can ask Betsy questions about policy because we showed you we have the handbook, right? So, aside from the days off we're taking, what else do we have about parental paid leave policy? And Betsy will go ahead into our our document, and she'll not only state what it is, but she'll tell you where it is and how it relates. And you can go deeper with these questions, as you'll see here. Hold on a second. Um, we can go a level deeper and understand, what other paid leave programs we may have. And again, she'll go deeper into the document and give us even more insight and information from that. Okay. So after that, we've shown her in documents, we've shown her taking action in HRIS. What about HR questions that happen all the time that have a little more nuance to them or require some delicate handling? So we've made up a question here that we'd ask Betsy, and that is, need your guidance in an employee situation. We have an employee that's upset, saying there's some bullying going on, talking about what they do inside of meetings and so forth. So if we ask Betsy that question, we'll see how she handles it from again, nuance, and then citing specific parts of our policy and what to do about that. So this is what Mike was talking about, where she won't just tell us how it fits in our policy, but she also can make some suggestions on how to handle it. So along with this, there's some nice tools that Betsy has. Remember, we said we want to be taking work off the table and not jumping from tool to tool all the time. So I'll say that's great. Please draft a memo. And then Betsy will go ahead and she'll draft a memo with that feedback for us. And we have it done in a way where you actually can open this and modify it here along with Betsy. So interestingly, and again, you can play around with this with discussion based, right? So here she's putting it to a specific employee. Please change the memo to be company wide. And by the way, you're going to see you're going to see typos from me because I'm a bad live typer. Luckily, you'll see that Betsy sees through that, and she can do what we ask her anyway. So there's the same memo from a company-wide standpoint. And then to show a little bit more action, I can say, let's send that in an email. Nope. Let's send that in an email. And Betsy will go ahead like we showed in Google, and she'll draft an email that I can send. Now, something that's very important. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. We want to send this. Let's send the memo to Doug Wilson. So Doug Wilson would have been the employee that I originally was asking about. And he's a made up employee that we have that takes some grief from us on the HR side here. But you'll see that Betsy has drawn up a draft. So if I hit this button, the link that she gave, you can see that I have this memo to Doug already sitting in my drafts folder. And this is where the human in the loop comes in. So she won't just send it on my behalf. She puts it here for me to review, for me to change, and then to send on my own volition. And that's a great way to show her taking action. Okay. Another interesting thing that I want to show from a demo standpoint is benefits. People ask about that all the time. It's benefits season here. So I'm sure that there's a lot of time spent by HR managers answering questions. We showed you that we had loaded a couple of health programs that we have in Catalyst AI. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to ask Betsy about those. Looking at this year's benefits, what are our medical plans, and please compare them and let me know what's best for me. And again, we haven't programmed any of this into her. We just uploaded our documents and we had these two Blue Cross Blue Shield programs, and she's able to show us the differences between them, make recommendations on how to choose and things that we should consider. And I can go a step further and I can give her some of my demographics, right? So if it's me and my wife and my two children, here's our ages. What would you suggest on these plans? And she'll do a deeper dive on what it would mean to us. Are we going to be going to the doctor more or not? These are things that she is offering based on a couple plans we uploaded that people have had to pay a lot for or to take time to program into something that is very rigid. And she's very helpful with not much information. So I'll take this one level deeper and I'll say, what if my wife has asthma? Does that affect my choice? And you'll see that she's thoughtful, and she'll even go further on, if someone has asthma, they're probably going to be going to the doctor. They're going to need medication. These are the ones that you'd really want to choose based on that. So hopefully that was a helpful demo around benefits. Like I said, we can do deeper dives on these, but I want to make sure I move along and show everything that Betsy has so that we have time at the end for some questions. So another one we want to show is training and compliance. So remember, we introduced Doug Wilson. Does Doug have any overdue training? Actually, I'm going to say specify Doug Wilson. And Betsy can go ahead again into our training is in Bamboo, so she can let me know if he's behind on any training. And I can tell Betsy, please inform Doug in DM that he needs to finish this in 2 weeks. And she'll go ahead and you'll see Doug would get a message from Betsy. In his version of Betsy, it would show up on the left here with a message that says, hey, that really needs to get done in 2 weeks. So we're still going through the same motions with Doug and not getting the training done. So I can ask Betsy, please write up a 30-day PIP for Doug. And one of the things that Betsy has is she has templates preloaded to her that anybody that's using her can get, or we can customize these templates as well for a specific organization. She's written this 30-day PIP, and she knows that Doug has actually missed trainings. That's one of the things we're talking about. So she's listed them, given expectations, how Doug will be supported, and then allows for acknowledgement. And as we showed earlier, we can send that in an email and draft it and get agreement and so forth. And to take the Doug example even further, we weren't able to figure out the training thing, and now unfortunately we're going to have to give Doug a severance. So we've written him a severance letter, and I'm going to upload that and ask Betsy, please review this severance letter for the appropriate state laws. She knows where the severance letter is and where Doug is. He's in Massachusetts, so she can review. And that was some really bad typing for me. And she got through that, which is great. But she's showing that we're missing a few of the state laws. So now, if we were to go ahead and correct that letter and we were to upload that to Betsy, we can say, we can be polite and say, thanks. Please review this letter for compliance. And she'll review that corrected letter, and hopefully we made all the appropriate changes. Betsy's taking a little time on that one. Say again. She took a little bit too long to evaluate that and timed out. All right, so we met all our compliance on that, which is great. And like I said, we could do deeper demos on this, but I want to show her touching all the pieces. So the last one that I want to do that really is, I believe, kind of the coup de grace. We keep talking about all the information that Betsy has, and we've talked to a lot of clients about when it comes to pay and compensation for employees and analyzing that and putting it in forms that we can look at. So I'm going to give a detailed prompt here. But I'm going to tell Betsy to take the pay data that we put in Bamboo here for all of our employees and do some analysis for it and some specifics on how competitive we are and so forth. So when I ask her to do that, you'll see her go ahead and provide that analysis. And she actually puts it into a graphical form for us here, which is great. I don't know how many of you have used GPTs, but they're really bad at making spreadsheets. And Betsy specifically is able to build this in a way where we can download it as a CSV or an Excel directly. And again, not a lot of tools on the market are able to do that. But you can see the very detailed analysis, thoughts based upon where we live, recommendations, and you can continue to go down, slice this data up, add fields to this, and modify this right in the discussions with Betsy. She could put it on an Excel file, and then you can present it at a meeting. So this is just a real small example of how smart she could be. So that is my demo as we had it, and we want to go ahead and open up the floor for questions and discussion.